everybody? What's happening, everybody? Tuesday, August 5th, 2025. My name is Kevin Smith. Thank you all so much for tuning into Loud Majority Live. We got a jam-packed show for you guys today. The DOJ announces an official investigation into the Russia collusion hoax. This is big stuff. We're going to get subpoenas. We're going to get discovery. We're going to get exactly what people knew and when they knew it. We're looking forward to that. MSNBC, of course, calls this a witch hunt, a hoax, nonsense, which we knew they would do. This comes as James Comer has also subpoenaed top Democrats, including both Clintons, to testify before Congress on their connections and knowings about Jeffrey Epstein. Obviously, this is not everything that we wanted, but it is some of what we wanted. So hopefully we will get that. Prime Time 99, Alex Stein has himself a field day with MSNBC and some interesting comments inside of a hearing room. Alex is hilarious. He's a good friend of mine. He's just funny as hell. I wish I had the balls to do half of the stuff that he did. Chris Cuomo has decided to run cover for himself and his actions during the COVID era because he thinks that you forgot. He thinks that you forgot. Luckily, we've brought the receipts. We didn't bring the receipts. Dave Smith brought the receipts in what will forever be one of the funniest clips in the history of news, politics, and entertainment. And I'm a little bit salty at Chris Cuomo for a particular reason, which I'll show you guys, because aside from being a liar, he's also a dick. He's also a bit of a dick. So, yeah, we're going to get to all of that as we get rocking, as we get rolling here at the 1 p.m. hour. Rumble.com/LoudMajorityUS. Quick programming note. Starting next week, this show will air at 3 p.m. every day, no longer airing at 1 p.m. So just so you guys are aware, we'll be making that announcement throughout the week. This show will now air at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, which gives some of you on the West Coast a little bit more time to dive in and digest, which is very good stuff. So we'll be going on at 3 p.m. from here on out on starting on Monday. Before we get rocking, before we get rolling today, guys, head on over to loudmajorityyusa.com. That's loudmajorityyusa.com. Sign up for the newsletter. Check out our shop. We got some new stuff over there for all my Floridians, for all my people who live down in the Panhandle region. We now have a new Gulf of America hat. I actually really want to check this out. I really like this. We just threw this up today. The Gulf of America hat in all of your lovely colors, just because I know how much you people in Florida love things like teal. But we now have the new Gulf of America hat. You guys can pick those up. loudmajorityyusa.com/shop and use promo code RUMBLE to get 20% off everything on the website. If you'd like to support the show and you've already got all this stuff, you can click that donate button at the top and become a monthly donor over here at the Loud Majority so that we can keep doing the work that we need to do as we move into 2025 and 2026. Also, quick note, August 24th, I will be at the Wisconsin Street Fair. Have big voter registration drive and the kickoff to the Smithtown campaign. Make sure you guys come on down if you're in the Wisconsin, Smithtown area. Also, August 31st, I'll be at the Ronkonkoma Street Fair, as I always am, one of the best street fairs on Long Island. Come on down to that one. So, let's dive right into the news as you guys are hitting that thumbs up button. The DOJ has launched a grand jury investigation into the Russian collusion hoax. This is big stuff right here. Pam Bondi announced yesterday that she will be ordering an official grand jury investigation into those who knew, those who lied, and those who deceived the American people. Many of those would fall under the realm of James Clapper, John Brennan, Barack Obama. What all did they know? In response to the criminal referral received by the DNI Tulsi Gabbard over the Russian collusion hoax documents released late in July, Attorney General Pam Bondi has directed her staff to act on the referral, and the DOJ is opening a grand jury investigation into the matter. An unnamed federal prosecutor has been ordered to initiate legal proceedings. The prosecutor is expected to present evidence to a grand jury to secure the indictment from Fox News, which obtained a letter from Bondi, which which spoke with a source familiar with the investigation. Here was Fox reporting.
Fox News can confirm that Attorney General Pam Bondi today signed an order directing an unnamed U.S. federal prosecutor to take evidence to a grand jury relating to an alleged conspiracy to tie then 2016 candidate Donald Trump to the country of Russia. Now, Fox News reviewed the one-page order just hours ago signed by the Attorney General. A source familiar with the probe confirms this as well, while a DOJ spokesperson declined to comment on this report of an investigation. Fox is told Attorney General Bondi is taking the referrals from Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard, quote, very seriously. The spokesperson says that Bondi believes there is, quote, clear cause for deep concern, end quote, and a need for the next steps. Now, this move comes just a couple of weeks after the Director of National Intelligence, you see her right there, Tulsi Gabbard, sent a criminal referral to the Justice Department regarding what she says proves there was a conspiracy to undermine Trump's candidacy and later his first term in office. Now, to be clear today, there are no charges that have been filed, no indictments. This is incredibly early in the process. What we have here is taking evidence the Justice Department believes it has to a grand jury to secure an eventual indictment or indictments. We don't know exactly where the grand jury will meet. We don't know who will go before the grand jury, and that's by design, because grand juries determine if there's enough evidence to indict, and grand juries are secretive in the American legal system, so it's normal not to know all of the answers. Again, the DOJ declining on any comment regarding this investigation. But, Will, big news, this was signed by the Attorney General Pam Bondi today to take this evidence of an alleged conspiracy to a grand jury with the hope to get an indictment or multiple indictments.
So obviously this is incredibly early in the process, but will we begin to get some of the answers that, let's be honest, we've known about for quite some time? We knew this was always nonsense. We knew it was cooked up by Democrats for Democrats right through the Steele dossier and right into the 2016 election, completely undermining the president's first term in office. Not only that, but changing the way Americans feel about how Russia feels about the West. You guys know that I've brought this up. Numerous times on this show. What did this alleged Russian collusion have to do with how Americans saw the Russia-Ukraine war, for example? The threats posed by Russia on a global scale. This nonsense has impacted the last 10 years of America, one way or the other. Naturally, MSNBC, they're assuring their viewers that there's no evidence of this. There's none at all. Now, in a moment, we're going to play a Jesse Waters clip that spells out all of the evidence. But, Nicole Wallace just went on TV and just said, it's debunked. It never happened.
Some more news breaking this hour to tell you about. Attorney General Pam Bondi has ordered a grand jury investigation into the so-called Russiagate conspiracy allegations made by the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard. A senior Trump administration official confirms to NBC News. That investigation was first reported by Fox News. These are unsubstantiated and largely debunked allegations by the Trump administration that former President Barack Obama and his aides in the intelligence community ordered a probe into the 2016 Trump campaign's connections to Russia to ruin his chances of becoming president. The source tells NBC News that a letter signed by Pam Bondi instructs an unnamed federal prosecutor to begin presenting evidence to secure potential indictments, although it is unclear what the charges would be and exactly who the grand jury will be targeting. We'll stay on top of that story. Thank you for letting us into your homes. We are always so great.
We didn't let you into our homes, Nicole Wallace. We didn't let you into our homes because we remember when you and the rest of your friends had evidence of weapons of mass destruction under the Bush administration, which also turned out to be complete and utter bullshit. Complete and utter bullshit, sending my generation to go fight and die in some third world shithole that we never cared about in the first place so that you and Dick Cheney could get rich. But look, without that, Nicole Wallace wouldn't be on TV telling you that the Obama allegations about Russian collusion are completely fake. So why wouldn't you believe her now? It's not like we have a complete deep dive into all that happened with Comey, with Brennan, with Clapper, those guys. It's not like we have a complete breakdown of that, not only from Tulsi Gabbard, but from House Intelligence Committee testimony from way back when with Trey Gowdy. This is a long Jesse Waters clip that I want to make sure you guys see. Most importantly, the reason why I want you to see this is because at the very end of this clip, when Trey Gowdy is questioning John Brennan, see if you can spot who's sitting behind him.
Fox News alert, the director of national intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, releasing a bombshell report today that shows a conspiracy by a sitting president, Barack Obama, and his intel agencies to sabotage the president-elect, Donald Trump, brainwash the electorate, and undermine the legitimacy of an election.
There is irrefutable evidence that detail how President Obama and his national security team directed the creation of an intelligence community assessment that they knew was false. They knew it would promote this contrived narrative that Russia interfered in the 2016 election to help President Trump win, selling it to the American people as though it were true. It wasn't.
Gabbard got her hands on a House intel report that's been locked away in a CIA vault for almost a decade. Investigators spent over 2,000 hours looking into how the Russia hoax was born, interviewing 20 CIA and FBI officials. And it turns out that the Obama administration doctored the intelligence to make it look like Putin and Trump stole the election. A month after Trump beat Hillary, Barack Obama wasn't satisfied with his intelligence reporting and ordered his CIA director to create a new assessment of how Russia interfered with the election. This was a highly unusual move. John Brennan handpicked 5 CIA analysts to write the assessment, and they were siloed. None of them knew what the other was doing, and only one analyst was in charge of drafting this report. There was nothing routine about this, and it was a rush job to publish before Trump was sworn in. Nothing was coordinated with the other intelligence agencies either. Basically, this was home cooking for Barack Obama. There were 4 key elements from the assessment that were repeated over and over again and formed the basis of the Russia hoax and the Robert Mueller witch hunt. 1, that Vladimir Putin wanted Donald Trump to win. 2, Putin took action to help Trump win. 3, the Russians had blackmail on Trump. That was the Steele dossier. And 4, that the Russians tried colluding with the Trump campaign. None of any of this was ever true. There was no reliable intelligence to support any of these allegations. Senior CIA officials repeatedly refused to traffic in these allegations, but they were repeatedly overruled by CIA Director Brennan and FBI Director Comey, who insisted that they be pushed, even without verifiable evidence. The Obama administration cherry-picked the intelligence, lied about their sources, misquoted sources, didn't corroborate their claims, suppressed intelligence that ran counter to their narratives, and even used anonymous internet postings. Rank and file CIA admitted what they were doing violated their own tradecraft standards. There was a massive pressure campaign that came right from the top. CIA analysts say they received unusual directives from political appointees, the CIA director, and Obama himself. This is how the Russia hoax was born.
Donald Trump knows that the Russians helped him win in 2016.
Putin hated Secretary Clinton so much that the flip side of that coin was he had a clear preference for the person running against the person he hated so much.
It was Russia in a very systematic way tried to interfere in the election and to try to advance the prospects of Donald Trump being elected.
This was such a malicious disinformation campaign perpetrated on the American people that at one point, 60% of Democrats believed the Russians hacked our voting machines to help Trump win the White House. What this report actually shows is that the Russians just wanted to create chaos and undermine Americans' faith in democracy. Solid intelligence suggested that Vladimir Putin didn't care who won. He had no preference. But like most people, expected Hillary to win and had a little docket of compromising dirt on her, dirt that he never released. Now, if Putin wanted Trump to win, why didn't Putin drop the dirt?
There were high-level DNC emails that detailed evidence of Hillary's, quote, psycho-emotional problems, uncontrolled fits of anger, aggression, and cheerfulness, and that then Secretary Clinton was allegedly on a daily regimen of heavy tranquilizers. Then CIA Director Brennan and the intelligence community mischaracterized intelligence and relied on dubious substandard sources to create a contrived false narrative that Putin developed a quote-unquote clear preference for Trump.
Now, if Clinton was on tranquilizers like the Russians believed, why didn't they leak it to help Trump win?
How credible was the information about Hillary Clinton's power?
All I have seen is what the Intelligence Committee have reported through their investigation. I think the underlying point there is that we understand from intelligence what Russia said that they had. And the important point here is that if they were trying to influence the election, as President Obama and James Clapper and John Brennan, everybody said they were doing in order to support Donald Trump's election, they would have released the most damning of that information.
Obama and his spy chiefs knew that Putin didn't prefer Trump over Hillary, but they cooked the intelligence to make it look like he did. Obama and his intel spies knew that Putin didn't collude with Trump and that he didn't even direct his people to help Trump win. But they put it out there anyway. In a sense, Barack Obama did exactly what Putin wanted, undermined Americans' faith in free and fair elections and caused chaos in our country. Barack Obama, the CIA, and the FBI were the ones doing what our enemy wanted.
Do you believe that any of this new information implicates former President Obama in criminal behavior?
We have referred and will continue to refer all of these documents to the Department of Justice and the FBI to investigate the criminal implications of this.
For even former President Obama?
Correct. The evidence that we have found and that we have released directly point to President Obama leading the manufacturing of this intelligence assessment. There are multiple pieces of evidence and intelligence that confirm that fact.
Even 2 years later, after the election, Barack Obama was still pushing a hoax he knew wasn't true. And he knew it wasn't true because he helped manufacture it.
They're undermining our alliances, cozying up to Russia. What happened to the Republican Party? They're cozying up to the former head of the KGB. Actively blocking legislation that would defend our elections from Russian attack. What happened?
Now, I don't know if it's possible to indict a former president for actions he took while in office. I'm not a lawyer, proudly. But Brennan, Comey, and others may have severe liability. Trey Gowdy says we know for a fact that Brennan...
Now, before we get to the Trey Gowdy clip that absolutely shows John Brennan committed perjury, see if you can spot anybody, I don't know, in the area of Trey Gowdy that might have some sway over this current investigation.
Committed perjury when he lied to Congress.
Director Brennan, do you know who commissioned the Steele dossier?
Oh, who we got there? Who we got there, top left? Right. Ah, yes, Kesh Patel, who was there for all of it. Luckily, he would be the one who does the criminal investigation referrals. So the guy who's about to be indicted for perjury for lying about the Steele dossier is going to be indicted by the guy who sat back and watched and knew it was a lie the entire time. Knew it was a lie the entire time. This is what happens. This is what happens when you FA. It turns out sometimes you FO. But look, guys, when it comes to all this stuff that happened in the past, why are we going back? There's a lot of Monday morning quarterbacking happening around here. There's a lot of that. And you shouldn't go back and question people when it comes to things like the Russian collusion hoax, when it comes to things like COVID response. You shouldn't go back and question them because that makes you a Monday morning quarterback and that makes you a bad person, according to people like Chris Cuomo.
You knowingly pushed propaganda from a place of extreme influence and people died and got hurt because of it. Now, to some of you, you won't know what this is about, but I do. This is one of the anti-vaxxers, okay? And they are so great of an example, okay? You take a situation where we didn't have enough information in real time. We had information that was wrong, that we didn't check enough in real time because we were learning in real time during the pandemic. And there has been this after the fact, I always knew what was right mentality that is really, really symptomatic of what I'm telling you, really representative of it, where these people actually think, who voted for Trump, okay, unanimously, all right, who at the same time they voted for Trump, who brought us the vaccine, see the vaccine as a poison that was a low point in American development. Think about that. You talk about how perverse we are with right and wrong. You voted for the guy who brought you what you think is poison.
So let me get this straight, Chris. If I voted for Trump, but I oppose taking the vaccine, that's a reverse world, okay? That's a reverse world. But if I support everything Trump does, that puts me into a cult. You see, you can never win with the Cuomos because they are arrogant assholes, particularly Chris. Because, look, Andrew at least had to win a couple of elections. And you can have all the connections in the world, you know, winning a statewide election is tough, even if your dad was governor, even if you did marry into the Kennedy family. But Chris, you know, hosting Good Morning America, you know, making pancakes with Emeril Lagasse before he got his show on CNN, you know, you can get that with connections. It's not really hard. Just ask Jen Psaki. But what if you were somebody who didn't vote for Trump the first time around? What if you were one of those people? What if you were, I don't know, famed libertarian and almost presidential candidate against Donald Trump, Dave Smith, and you brought receipts for how Chris Cuomo acted during COVID?
There was so much talk that they don't want you to take.
I want to be clear. This is the greatest clip on the internet. There's a lot of good clips on the internet. This one wins hands down.
Ivermectin is the way to go. Take it. Joe Rogan got better from ivermectin. And by the way, I don't like what people did to Joe Rogan about ivermectin. I don't like
You did it.
No. Okay,
yes,
good.
you did.
Find the clips.
Dude, find the clips. You shamed Joe Rogan.
Find the
you
clips.
said he's taking horse dewormer. You and Don Lemon were chuckling at each other about it.
No.
I'll go find
First
the
of all,
clip.
you just saw the clips.
I watched it.
I'm not chuckling. I'm listening to Don. But
No. The
here's
clip
point.
I'm talking about wasn't on there. And
Here's-
it's absolutely
look, we
there.
were
Here, do we have it? Hold on. Let's play the clip.
Go ahead.
Injecting drugs for animals and horse.
And people telling them to. Oh, my God. What person? You know, you talk about, cancel culture and who to shame. Ivermectin, a dewormer, really?
They are shaming themselves.
That's
No
what
one
it
has
is.
to shame them. They're shaming themselves.
So you're taking a dewormer right now, Chris. Chris, you can't apologize for that. You weren't being clear that it was this, and you know that, dude. You're being so dishonest right now, man.
I'm not
You
being
were
dishonest.
talking about ivermectin, the drug. You were not talking about this version of ivermectin. Come on, man.
Will forever be the greatest clip on the internet. I don't imagine fact-checking a pretentious asshole in real time. Now, look, I want to be clear. I'm a big fan of Dave Smith. Don't agree with everything he says. Don't agree with anything anybody says. That's just how that works. But I don't like Chris Cuomo. You know why? Because he's a dick. Because when I called him out on Twitter about a week and a half ago, he decided to call me fat. And look, I don't really care. You want to call me fat? Feel free. I said, shame on you for covering for your brother for killing people and pretending Joe Rogan was taking horse pills, which could have saved lives. And stop with the creatine, those neck veins are going to pop. To which he responded with, fat and stupid is a hard way to go through life. Work on the stupid part first. To which I would say, Chris Cuomo, I'm sorry, you're never going to be your father's favorite son, but look, that's just something you're going to have to live with now. Maybe you'll always be mom's favorite. Look, Chris, I know you're smart and you want respect. But the way to get respect is to give respect. By the way, we have the police report from East Hampton that you said didn't happen. Guys, we'll be back in 1 second because we're also going to continue to make fun of the media. One time because of Primetime 99, Alex Stein, the pimp on a blimp eating steak and shrimp, who had himself quite the day yesterday. And then Jim Acosta. Some of you may remember Jim Acosta. He is one of the worst actors in the media. he did an interview that might be one of the most insane things I have ever seen. And if you've been watching this show for long enough, you know damn well I have brought you some insane shit on this show. You know I have brought you some wild stuff. I mean this genuinely. One of the craziest things I've ever seen before we get to that Old Glory Bank.
When big banks decide who gets access to America's financial systems and who doesn't, who do you think gets left out? Middle Americans who proudly wave their pro-America values. Cancel culture in banking is corrosive. It limits your participation in a vibrant, free market economy. Fortunately, you can fight back. You now have the opportunity to invest in the bank that's investing in a fair American banking system, one based in freedom. Ownership in Old Glory Bank, the pro-America online bank, is here. Old Glory Bank is a full-service FDIC-insured bank that's the alternative to overreaching, un-American big banks. We stand for privacy, security, and liberty. We stand for freedom, family, faith, and the flag. We stand for all the values you stand for, and for the values big banks can't stand. So help keep banking in the hands of Main Street, not Wall Street. To invest in Old Glory Bank, go to oldglorybank.com.
Guys, head on over to oldglorybank.com. That's oldglorybank.com and lock in some of those interest rates before Jerome Powell either wises up or gets fired. Opening up a CD today is a good way to lock in these high-ass interest rates before someone at the Federal Reserve wakes up. And, of course, that's not financial advice because there are lawyers out there. And, quite frankly, well, now certainly I definitely don't have any money to pay for them. But I didn't beforehand. So, guys, head on over to oldglorybank.com and take their advice because, you know, they're better than me. Oldglorybank.com. That's oldglorybank.com. So, what can the media do? What can the media do? Well, something they could do would be just to present just the news. And I'll be clear, I just shit on Chris Cuomo because I don't like him. But of all the cable news networks, the ability to try to be like, you know, both sides it, I got to say News Nation, probably the best at it. Still not great, but better than most. Better than most. Of course, when we want to see coverage from both sides of the aisle, there's only one show we can go to, and that's Abby Phillip over on CNN. Why? Because Abby Phillip has a guy named Scott Jennings, who's soon going to be the next senator from the great state of Kentucky, who gave them the idea that perhaps if they didn't want to continue to plummet in the ratings, they could perhaps look inward at themselves, at what they've done. We've seen that the media has been going off left, right, and center about the attacks on democracy. And we're all going to die because if we don't get to watch Nicole Wallace yammer on like a monkey in a tree, if we don't get to see that, then they're all going to die. If we didn't get to hear the report from Rachel Maddow 7 years ago that Russia was going to turn off the heat in Fargo, North Dakota, we might have died. If we don't get those sorts of things, if Stephen Colbert doesn't have the right to lose $40 million a year on a show with 200 employees, what the hell are 200 people doing on that show? What? I need to know what they were doing. I need to send in like the Bobs from Office Space and just look at every employee on the Colbert Show and have them go, what is it, would you say, you do here? I don't know how it would take 200 people to run a 42-minute show. I'm running an hour-long show here by myself. And I think I'm just as funny as Colbert. I think I'm a little bit funnier than him. I think the creatine joke about Chris Cuomo was pretty funny. If you didn't see that, go back and watch it because, you know, creatine is something you take in like 10th grade. But Scott Jennings had some idea for how the media could be better and how they could, in just some sort of way, not continue to suck, and listen to the response he gets.
The problem is...
Listen to the response he gets. I don't know who this guy is. I've never heard of him. Maybe he's like big shit in the Beltway, but, you know, maybe he wrote a book like 30 years ago. Nobody really knows.
The problem is that the right wing, hello, Scott, has taken...
Ah, yes. He wrote the Gutenberg parenthesis. I know you guys always read that book, the Gutenberg parenthesis. I know it's sitting right next to your toilets. But, let's see. Maybe he's got something interesting to say.
Advantage of this situation, I think, quite cleverly, quite wisely. They've played into a weakness.
What situation?
The situation of media being under attack. And so they've created a situation where...
You've almost got it. Keep going.
Oh, right. He's a journalism professor, because everyone knows the old adage. Everybody knows those who can't do, teach.
What the right wing is taking advantage of is finally the American people saying enough is enough. They're tired of feeling like the mass media screens out one viewpoint versus another in political coverage. They're tired of media institutions favoring one party over another. They're tired of narratives over factual stories. If I had any advice for 60 Minutes or anybody else, it would be just cover the news and try to be fair about it and stop putting your finger on the scale, especially during campaigns.
You're talking about the old mass media myth that you could have this thing that was in the middle. The Walter Cronkite saying, that's the way it is, when it wasn't for many Americans the way it was. When people were pissed off.
People back in those days trusted the media, did they not?
No, they just couldn't be heard. Because there was no two-way. Now we have the internet.
Look at the Gallup polling. It was here, and now it's here. It's fallen off of a cliff.
Yeah, we do have that Gallup polling about trust in media. And now, as in recent years, and let's be honest, Scott, a lot of this is driven by the rhetoric on your side of the aisle.
I mean, it's not. You think it's driven by the rhetoric and not the performance?
Absolutely.
But my point is this: if you're CBS or any other news outlet, the reason that you have lost trust ought to be obvious to you, and the way to fix it also ought to be obvious to you. And it has nothing to do with Donald Trump and everything to do with the product. Just try to make a better product that appeals to more people. And the way you appeal to more people is by not crapping on half or more than half of the country because of their values and political viewpoints.
I think that is
what you'd end up with in that press room then is, and these are my words, the freak show that Trump wants. Trump tries to devalue media. Why should we value his freak show there? Leave it to the freaks.
I think calling them freaks.
I don't think there's any disagreement on that, by the way.
I mean, he called these new media sources the freak show. They're not freaks. They have audiences.
Some of them are.
They have audiences, and there's a reason that they're thriving is because the people are starved for information that they think they can trust. They're not freaks. They're filling a need in this country, in my opinion.
See, guys, it's not the J School professor who wrote the Gutenberg parenthesis. Whatever the hell that is. I'm sure it somehow ended up on the New York Times bestseller list because he probably forced his students to buy his shitty book so that it would end up on the New York Times bestseller list. By the way, that's how like half of the books get there. Little inside baseball. If you're a shitty writer, the best way to get books sold is be a professor and force your students to buy the book. I know I've got like 8 of them on my bookshelf there that I was forced to buy. But it's not them. It's not them. It's never them. It's always somebody else's fault. Look inward. It's the same thing as fat people who blame McDonald's for their high blood pressure. No one told you to eat it, bro. Nobody told you to spend the last 20 years alienating half of the country. Nobody told you to do that. Nobody told you to. But you did it anyway. And because you did things like that and you closed off the gate to people like me, Abby Phillip would never have me on her show. Last time she had someone like me on her show, it was my friend Ryan Grodusky who told Mehdi Hassan that he hoped his beeper didn't go off in one of the funniest moments I've ever seen. Shout out to Ryan, Queens boy. Founder of the, the 1776 Project. Funny shit. If you guys haven't seen that, YouTube Ryan Grodusky beeper. One of the funniest things I've ever seen. But it's okay because Mehdi Hassan's a terrorist. So, shit happens. Shit happens. But when you close off the gates, when you do not allow people in the front door, what they tend to do is find a way in through the back door. Like, let's say you owned a nightclub and you didn't let people in. People would try to sneak in through the back door. Let's say you closed off the National Young Republican Convention to a guy who was sneaking into New York City nightclubs at the age of 15. He would probably find his way into the convention, which is what I did. or people would find their own ways of getting their message out there. I leave you with Primetime 99 Alex Stein, the pimp on a blimp, who had himself quite the day.
We just watched the speaker gavel out with a whole lot of anger, Kelly. Here's the state of play. Here's
MSNBC sucks.
Hey, how are you?
MSNBC sucks.
Talk to you for a second.
MSNBC sucks.
Okay.
You can see the frustration.
Sometimes this happens, and we understand that that can happen. And while we love free speech, we're going to keep control here. So, Ryan, thank you. Shaq, thank you. A volatile story. We'll be following it. And apparently, not only Shaq cleaned up. Okay. Stay with us here because Ryan has cleared the set, as we would like to say. The gentleman moved on. So, Ryan, let me turn back to you.
Yeah, that's right. Because if there's one thing we know about the pimp on a blimp, it's that he usually only takes one swipe. Well,
nicely handled there. Can you give us an update on, as you were walking us through this, we'll all take a breath there. Maybe not. Okay. Go ahead, Ryan. See,
hold on 1 second.
Yeah. Okay. We're just going to pull the plug there. Thank
Kelly,
you, Ryan.
this is all playing out in real time.
It sure
Passion
is
high.
Yes.
There's a whole lot of anger here, as you can see. So we're going to get a control of this and come back to you when we can.
Fair enough, fair enough. And we recognize people are expressing their views, and we're there to cover it. You do that job. We'll move on with our audience. Thanks for your patience with all of that.
You're there to cover it, so make sure you break away from it. Alex Stein had himself quite the weekend. Not only that, he sat in on a committee somewhere, as we know Alex is prone to do. He sat in on a committee, and he had some interesting views on how we should handle frontline soldiers. I wish I had balls as big. And, he doesn't even drink. Do you know how drunk I would have to be to do that? Here was Alex Stein having more fun.
Have you been able to keep tabs on what's happening there? Can you bring us an update?
I'm considered one of.
And while we love free speech, we're going to keep control here. So, Ryan.
Welcome. Introduce yourself. Go ahead.
My name's Alex Stein. I'm considered one of the sexiest men in conservative politics. And one thing I want to say, a lot of people are going to hear my testimony and you're going to say you're anti-LGBTQ. I want to say that's impossible because I'm a Dallas Cowboys fan. So obviously I have a lot of gay pride. But, a lot of conservatives like yourself, you want to outlaw transgenders in women's sports. I disagree. I like transgenders in women's sports because you can gamble on them and win money. I won so much money on Leah Thomas's propeller in that pool. I almost turned DraftKings, into Draft Queens. And, I actually like transgenders in the military, too, because, first of all, transgenders are some of the meanest people on planet Earth, so they'd make a good soldier, don't you think? And then, second of all, transgenders love to do mass shootings. So, that's perfect for a military veteran. And then on top of that, the suicide rate is incredibly high among transgender people. So we could just use them like the Taliban has suicide bombers. Maybe you guys can actually, if you commit suicide, actually help us in the battlefield. So that would be good. So I think we need transgenders in the military and women's sports. Now, when we come to the bathroom bill, though, this is an asymmetrical problem. Because, first of all, no dude cares if, a bisexual woman comes in there and tries to use, a pee funnel. Some lady boy comes in there, some, stud comes in there, wants to pee in the urinal. No guy's going to be threatened by, a trans woman. But we don't want these gargoyles in a dress, some chick with a dick coming in there and trying to pee or poop next to my girlfriend, because that's disgusting. And, I was going to say something. Listen, I have my First Amendment right. Let me just speak. So, we're sick of these transgenders trying to invade women's personal spaces. These people have autogynephilia, they're sexual perverts, and they actually get satisfaction from going there and looking under a stall. So these are mentally ill people that are on hormones, that are on all kinds of pills, they're impulsive, and they do not belong in a women's restroom. So if some of you lesbians want to come in and pee next to me, you're more than welcome. So we just don't let the chicks with dicks in the women's room, and you guys are all welcome in the men's room. I think that works.
Thank you very much.
Oh my God, he's fucking awesome. He's awesome, man. Those of you who've never gotten to meet Alex, I promise you, he's like that in real life. He's like that. Nothing about that. Alex is absolutely hilarious, man. Love that guy. If you guys get a chance, go to Turning Point, go to one of these conventions, and just go to DC and find him. He's absolutely hilarious. A pea funnel. Oh, man. Guys, we'll be back in 1 second. I got to take a breather after that one. Here's Mike Lindell.
I'm excited to announce that we're having our first ever mega sale on overstock clearance and brand new products. For example, save over 50% on this season's flannel sheets. Queen size only $59.98. Kings only $69.98. They sell out fast every year, so order now. Save 20% on our brand new My Crosses. They're designed in the likeness of the one I've worn every day for over 20 years. They come in men's and women's, and they're made right here in the USA. Get our 2025 six-piece My Towel sets for only $29.98. Our initial quantities are extremely low, so get them now before they go. And our best-selling standard My Pillows, just $14.98. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use this promo code to take advantage of our first ever mega sale. But wait, remember that $75 free shipping rule? Well, that ship is sailed because right now, every order ships absolutely free.
Guys, head on over to MyPillow.com, promo code LOUD. That's MyPillow.com, promo code LOUD for up to 80% off everything on the website. That's MyPillow.com, promo code LOUD. Yeah, so Alex Stein is, guys, follow Alex everywhere. Yeah, I promise you it will never be, there's a lot of good follows out there. There's a lot of good follows on Instagram and X and Facebook or whatever. Alex is chief among them. So, over the course of the last several weeks, we've been seeing the repercussions and the aftermath of that horrific beating in Cincinnati. We saw the big lesbian mule of the Cincinnati police chief come out and say that it was our fault, social media influencers. It was our fault that this happened. Not the fact that she has a racial bias in her department. It's not the fact that the city of Cincinnati was safer when Jerry Springer was the mayor of the city. No, it's not that. It's none of that. It's not the fact that 150 people stood around and watched some girl get the absolute shit beaten out of her and nobody decided to call the cops or even attempt to stop it. Well, now we're getting word from Holly, the young woman who was beaten. And just a heads up, this video, it's difficult to watch.
I just want to say thank you so much to everyone for all of the love and support. It is very humbling that you have sent your prayers, your blessings. It's definitely what's keeping me going. And you have just brought back faith in humanity. So God bless you all. Thank you. I appreciate everything that you're doing for me and my family. It's been very, very hard. And I'm still recovering. I still have a very bad brain trauma. And it's, thank you, everyone.
An absolutely tragic story. Well, there is some good news to come out of this. Benny Johnson, host of the Benny Johnson Show, he set up a GoFundMe for Holly, this woman. The initial campaign was set to raise $25,000, and it has now surpassed $100,000 on the Give, Send, Go. It was launched by the conservative commentator Benny Johnson to support the victim, identified only as Holly. The fundraiser states that all the proceeds will go towards helping the victim with medical, legal, security, and lost work due to this. We even got a pretty wild donor. Let me see, do I have this here? Do I have this here? There was a pretty wild donor who attempted to remain anonymous. Let's see if you guys can figure out who donated this money, $1,000. I will read it to you. Hi, Holly. Both of my parents are from Ohio. I'm a lifelong Reds fan, and I also played for the Indians in a film years ago. My Ohio connections run deep, and what happened to you will not be tolerated by true Ohioans like yourself, as justice will reign supreme. Heal well, young lady, and know that we are all rooting for you. CS. Well, it turns out that person who starred in a movie about the Cleveland Indians has now been confirmed. Charlie Sheen has donated $1,000 of his own money to this campaign, putting out on Twitter, "Benny, I was merely following your gracious lead. The speed at which you and Senator Moreno hatched the donation plan was stunning and compassionate and as patriotic as it gets. You both reminded all of us that in America we will remain proud to call home. Keep up the great work. And Holly, we have your 6. That came from Charlie Sheen. So it's good to know that in the last couple of days, the Republican Party has picked up both Sidney the Smoke Show Sweeney and Rick Wild Thing Vaughn. Giddy up. Let's go. Let's go. Very good. Very good stuff. Thank you, Charlie Sheen, for doing that. That's just awesome. And the fact that he confirmed it is even better. You know, hell of a guy. Hell of a guy. Weird, Chris Cuomo didn't donate. Right, because he's a dick. He is a dick. So, we got another wild story that we're going to get to. It's a long video from Project Veritas that I want to make sure that actually James O'Keefe is, he got deposed by Project Veritas today to come and piss away more of his money on a ridiculous lawsuit that has been hatched by some of the worst people on planet Earth. We're going to get to that in one. Actually, you know what? Let's do that now. And then we'll get to the worst story in quite some time. Here is Project Veritas reporting.
It's very easy to know why I am being prosecuted and no one else is being charged or prosecuted. It's very easy. I called the FBI to report Bill Barr and Armstrong Williams. It is way more easy to defraud the immigration system and the government more than the people think. And I have proof of that because that's what Armstrong and Bill Barr does. We use the burner phone since I started to work for Armstrong. Everyone uses a burner phone to call politicians or to call whatever we need to call. For example, this one, it is for Fannie Willis. I have a burner phone that we use to call Barr. After all these people get their green cards or their visas, they never work in the company they are supposed to open and work. This company is completely fake. They don't exist. Bill Barr knows the companies that they launched for the visa was not real companies. One thing that I learned very fast and very in the beginning is like, Bill Barr is someone extremely important. And I remember the biggest conversation they had at that point, it is like, what kind of charges that we can bring against Trump? And they discussed like few charges under American law. And that's when Bill Barr, and I will never forget that, Bill Barr was like, we should bring RICO because it's a very difficult type of charge to defend. Hi, my name is Patricia Lelis. I'm a journalist and I work with politics for a long time. And back 2018, I got married with an American, and that's how and why I moved to the US and started to work as a journalist in USA. I started to work for Armstrong Williams in 2021, and I was hired as a journalist for his TV stations. I met Armstrong Williams through David Smith, the owner of Sinclair Broadcast Group. Armstrong Williams, he worked with politics. He claims he's a journalist. He has some TV stations. He also a lobbyist too. And it's very hard to say who is Armstrong Williams because until today, I don't have this answer for you. The first contact that I have with the lobbying work that Armstrong does and do at that point was through a visa lobbying that he was working for Julian's Rice parents. Their names is Peter and Vivian. Julian, it is a billionaire and he's not American. He's living in US right now because he has a visa that he got through Armstrong too, but I was not working for Armstrong at that point. Armstrong Williams offered me $700,000 just for Julian visa. Yes, we did have a conversation about that. So he offered me $700,000 to work just in Julian visa case, and I have the contracts for that. So I remember I have some project that he wanted me to take like $1.5 million or like $1.3 million, and I was like, look, I'm not that comfortable with that because, you know, like how am I going to explain that? And all the time he's like using that like, no, it's because you're not from here, it's because you don't understand the system, you don't understand the business, and that's how much it costs to have a visa to live in the US. And that's how much he offered me. And in the end, he didn't want to do a contract for this kind of stuff. But I was like, look, I just go to start to work on this if I do have a contract. And that's when he finally, after a lot of talk, he agreed to sign the contract. All the payments was made by Julian directly in my bank account as we sign up in the contract. So my entire role was like, focus on the business plan and put everything together so Armstrong and his friends can send to the government. I met Clyde Vanell through Armstrong. He always presents himself as Armstrong lawyer. He also represents Houdstork Holdings, we call HSH, the company. And Clyde is always involved with everything. He's always like on a board with everything. I think right now Clyde got elected in New York, and everything that I did, I was under supervise of Clyde Vanell. Most of the time is like he's the person who let me know what I need to do and how do I need to do, or like who I need to contact. So he's always there, he's always involved with every single thing. We start to sell these visas for these billionaires, and they are supposed like to launch a company. Like Julian's parents, they are supposed to have this company, this cosmeticals company. And after we did all the process, after they got their visas, I discovered they do not have any plan to open and operate the company. So it's basically like they create a fake company that I helped to create with them, and they never launched this company. This company do not have one single real operation, and that's illegal. I just realized after a lot of situations that every single person who Armstrongs work with for visas, they're lying for the governments. They're selling companies like for the public, like, oh, I'm going to create this big company and we are talking about all these rich and billionaire peoples together. And when we go to see the files, after all these people get their green cards or their visas, they never work in the company they are supposed to open and work. This company is completely fake. They don't exist.
Reese Cosmetics?
No, there's nobody there.
Nobody's there.
No, nobody's there. And there used to be no one there. Like, it's always empty.
It's always empty?
Yeah.
We don't have the big.
This company was supposed to sell cosmetical in the US because Julian, he has a very huge company about cosmeticals, like I think it's called Super Ordinary. So it was supposed to be kind of the same company, but for his parents. I went to Singapore to help them with the interview. I went there with all the documentation. Don't ask me why the interview was in Singapore, because they're not living in Singapore, but because Armstrong has a contact in Singapore that booked faster the interview. So I went to Singapore for this interview with them, and it was extremely fast. I'm not joking, like 10 minutes. And they just like went inside of the embassy in Singapore, and when they came back, they're like, oh, we got approved. And I was like, okay, good. So Armstrong's knew, everyone was happy. Then I got back to the US. So I started to realize the visa was fraudulent when they moved to the US. That was like back in 2022, if I'm not wrong. They moved to the US, they are living US, and they are now working in the company. The company don't exist. And I was like, I don't think that's right, because we told the government this company will be real, this company will have operation. And then I realized after people got their visas, they don't open the company, they don't have employees that they're supposed to have. And that's when I started to realize every single visa that we worked on the office is probably fraudulent. Bill Barr knows the companies that they launched for the visa was not real companies. Because after Julian parents got their visas, I saw him after, and I was like, you know, we need to start to work in this company and make everything run. And he's like, oh, don't worry about it. Everything will be fine. Armstrong and Bill Barr, they had a contact inside of the government. I think the name of the guy was Jonathan Cohens. As I understood, everyone who works for Armstrong and Bill Barr, everyone knew. Everyone knows, like, the company was fake. But one thing they account is like after you got approved, after you got your visa, the government doesn't go and check if you are really working your company, you know, if you launch the company. They don't check. So they always account on this. It is way more easy to defraud the immigration system and the government more than the people think. And I have proof of that because that's what Armstrong and Bill Barr does.
I'm sure Veritas will have way more on that in the coming weeks. Wild stuff. Guys, we're going to have to save the Jim Acosta thing for tomorrow. It's 2 p.m. here on Loud Majority Live. I want to thank everybody so much for tuning in. Once again, this show, starting on Monday, will be airing at 3 p.m. From now on. I'll be making that announcement across all of the platforms so that everyone is aware of it. I want to thank everybody so much for tuning in. Once again, head on over to loudmajorityusa.com. Hit that donate button at the very top. Consider becoming a monthly donor. Now more than ever. Got to be honest with you, and I never really say that. Never. I've never said that before in 4 years of doing this show. Never said that before. So I want to thank everybody so much for tuning in. I'll catch you guys back live tomorrow. Until then, everybody, stay loud.